Recently, I visited a friend of mine named Howard, who I've known for over 30 years. Howard bought a home exactly 25 years and 3 months ago, a new construction home, in fact. And the reason I know this statistic is because he bought it the day before he got married, and I was a groomsman in the wedding. The house was big enough for him to raise a lot of kids. This was quite important to he and his wife, Amanda. When I asked Howard what he and his wife wanted for a wedding gift, he gave me the names of the stores where they were registered: Bed Bath & Beyond, Crate & Barrel, and Marshall Fields. I said, yes, but what do you really want? I don't want to pick from a list. Tell me exactly what you want, and I will get it for you. As it turned out, he and his wife, Amanda, wanted a crib. And when he told me this, I looked at him, gave him a soft punch on the shoulder, and I said, my man. And he said, no, no, she's not expecting, but we want to raise a big family. Amanda is a few years older than me, and we need to get started immediately to hit the number that we want to hit in terms of number of children. And when the crib arrived a month later, he called me and asked if I would come over and help him carry it up the stairs and put it in the future nursery. So I did, and that's where it sat. And after 3 long years, he called me and asked me if I would help him move the box down to the basement. Every time I walk past the room, he said, it is really painful, and it reminds Amanda and me of what we'll never have. When I went down to the basement, it was pristine. The walls were white. It was untouched. It had that new basement feel to it. All that was down there was the box that we brought down, a filing cabinet, and a chair. As things go, we were both running hard at our careers, and there wasn't a week that went by that I didn't think about Howard and Amanda. But it took me almost 10 years to call him, and when I did, his phone was disconnected. Fast forward another 12 years, so 22 years in total, and I got a call from Howard out of the blue. He and Amanda had done really well financially, and they were getting ready to retire. He had run a very successful 12-person electrical contractor company, and they were moving to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where Amanda was from. We got to talking. They had adopted 3 girls from a broken home. They adopted them at ages 4 through 8, and so they were all out of college at that point. Life had turned out great for them, and he wanted me to come by and pick up the crib. He felt like I was the only person that they could give it to where they wouldn't again reopen old wounds. And so I told him I was living in New York, but I was going to be in town in about a month. And if that was acceptable to him, I'd swing by, I'd rent a van and come by and take the crib to a charity. And I, for the first time in 22 years, saw Howard and Amanda again. Howard was a little heavier. He had quite a bit less hair, but he looked basically the same, more or less. Amanda had aged gracefully, and her brown hair had turned a gentle shade of gray. And for the first time in 22 years, I went down into Howard and Amanda's basement again. What I saw was completely different. The basement smelled like mildew. And when I got to the bottom of the basement, there wasn't just a box, a filing cabinet, and a chair. In fact, the entire basement was filled from top to bottom with boxes collapsing on each other and a lot of junk that you just wouldn't expect to see in a house that only had a box, a chair, and a filing cabinet before. We pushed our way through the basement, moving boxes, old bicycles, and one black lacquer dining room table and chairs out of the way to get to the box with the crib in it. With the path cleared, it was very easy to get out of the basement, up the stairs, and put the box in the rental and head over to the Chicago Furniture Bank, which was a charity that takes children's furniture. On the way out the door, I said goodbye to both of them. We promised to keep in touch, and we have. I went back again a few months later to say hello, and Howard said, I want to show you something. He brought me into his house and down to the basement, and again it was completely pristine except for a box and a chair. Howard and Amanda had used the removal of the crib as the spark to declutter their whole home. If we could get the crib out, he said, then we could remove just about anything. And they did. There is a clutter epidemic in this country. It's staggering, actually. 1 out of 10 households has a storage unit that they rent for, on average, $89 a month. But what's interesting about that statistic is that 67% of the people who use storage units own a single-family home, which means that they have a garage. And about half of those have a basement, which means that they have a place to put all of their clutter, and they still have a storage unit. The longer you live, the more the clutter. This makes sense, of course, and Howard and Amanda are a perfect example of this. but right now I'm going to show you an ironclad system that will help you declutter your house efficiently and really, really effectively. We're going to use a Japanese system called Shinto, which is actually a religion on decluttering in Japan. One of the central features of Shintoism is cleanliness, a clean body, a clean mind, and for the purposes of this video, a clean, decluttered home. It's such a powerful system that the best-selling book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, is based on Shintoism. That book, by the way, has 13 million copies in print, and it's been translated into 44 different languages. Why is this important and why should you care? Because the author of that book, Marie Kondo, is a cleanliness consultant. She's a tidying up consultant. Her job is to go into people's houses and rid them of all of their clutter. Her system helps them do it once, do it completely, and do it without regret. And those are the key characteristics of what we're going to talk about now. All right, let's get into it. But before we do, please make sure you click subscribe and turn on notifications so that you get alerted the next time I post a video. I post a few times a week. Also, if you know someone who can use this information, and I know that you do, make sure that you click the forward button down below and send the link to them so that they can also learn about how to declutter their home. Last but not least, stick around to the end because I'm going to show you how to engage in this process and complete this process guilt-free. And in fact, I'm going to show you how to not only get your family's buy-in, but appreciation in the process. All right, let's go. Step number one is understanding why you're decluttering. Now, I know that this sounds basic, but most people skip this step. They go right into, I'm going to declutter. But decluttering is, in Shintoism anyway, a religion, and it's something that needs to be respected. The reason you're decluttering for many of you is because you want to lead a simpler life, you want to lead a happier life. Whatever your reason is, understand what your outcome is. You can look at decluttering your home like detoxifying your mind. That loud shirt that you had when you were 21 served its purpose in the day, but now it just reminds you of a time in the past that perhaps you might now want to forget. With Shintoism, it's now time to let it go, give it the respect that it deserves, and replace it with something more appropriate for what you want to use in your life today. Along those same lines, know what your future home is going to look like. A lot of people, when they go into the decluttering process, just want their current home, but without all of the stuff in it. But the reality is you now have a unique opportunity to redesign your home in a way that suits your current lifestyle. Ask yourself the question, if you could snap your fingers and reorganize your home in a way that suits your current lifestyle without spending any additional money, what would your home look like? This is important because without the answer to this question, you will feel like you haven't done this process completely. For example, do you want a minimalist home where you have nothing but the bare essentials in front of you? For some, this is an absolute dream. For others, this is way too Spartan. Perhaps you want an essentialist home where you have everything you need to enjoy life right in front of you, but not a single thing more. Perhaps you want a more traditional home where some of the things that you own are there just to make you happy. They don't really serve a function, and that's completely okay too. Once you know what you want, you can begin decluttering the 25, 30, 35, 40, 50 years of clutter in your home, noting that the end outcome is that your home will be filled only with the things that you truly love. For example, don't keep books that you won't read, clothes that you won't wear, or furniture that's been sitting in the basement for decades simply because you don't know what to do with them, or worse yet, you feel guilty doing something with them. By the way, when you're done with this video, you won't feel like you have to throw anything away that you want to keep in the name of cleanliness. That's not the purpose. The things that you get rid of will either find a home elsewhere or you'll feel very comfortable throwing them out. There won't be many regrets. Start with the easiest categories first: clothes, books, and documents. These typically don't have any sentimental value, and in the case of documents, maybe even negative sentimental value, so they're traditionally pretty easy to get rid of. The hardest sentimental category, by the way, for most people is photos. Keep the ones that you remember taking or remember being in, and or help you relive the memory. The rest of them you can either give away or throw away. Now let's think about decluttering systematically. You're going to run into clutter and you're going to categorize it as one of three things: something you keep, something you give away, or something you throw away. Purchase colored sticky dots and put a green sticky dot on something that you want to give away, family, friends, charity, and an orange sticky dot on something that you want to throw away. If it's something that you want to keep, you don't need to put any sticky dot on it at all. Keep something if it corresponds with your current vision of the future. Things like documents, warranties, and manuals typically don't fit a purpose, and they can be in the bin almost immediately if the warranty is expired, for example. Many of the old course materials and books that you have related to old courses have outlived their purpose in life, and frankly, you know more in many cases than what's written in those books. As you go through your clutter, some of the things that you run across may awaken passions that you forgot you had, and they may form the basis for something that you do in the future. Definitely keep those items. Undoubtedly, there will be things that you no longer want to keep, but others would love to have. My wife's grandmother, for example, gave away all of her silver when she was in her 80s because she wasn't going to be serving tea and hosting people anymore, and she gave it to family. The family loved it. She loved the fact that they loved it. It was a win-win. She felt very good about that interaction. The best part was that at the end, there was nothing left, and those items found a home for generations to come. The natural place to give these away are family and friends, of course. If you have a piece of art from South America and you happen to either have a friend or a family member who went with you on that trip, that's a great place to start. Perhaps they've even made the comment, when the time comes, quote unquote, I'd love to have it. By the way, if they show no interest whatsoever, perhaps that's a gut check in and of itself telling you that it could be something that doesn't really need to be kept by anyone. And of course, if something has value but nobody wants it, the natural place to go is to a charity. This is a soul cleansing experience because people who really need it can buy it for pennies on the dollar in most cases. The last category, by the way, is the throwaway category. This is where 60 to 70% of your clutter will go. No one really wants a 70s shirt unless there's going to be a flashback party, but let's be honest, those don't really happen, and the 70s aren't coming back no matter what people say. So put it out of its misery and give it to charity, or better yet, throw it away. Now that you know how to organize your clutter into 3 categories of keep, giveaway, or throwaway, the next question is, where do you begin? Well, for most people, they start with their wardrobe. Why? Because it is probably the most cluttered, and it's the first thing that you see in the morning. Also, you can make great strides with your wardrobe very, very quickly. You can actually get through your wardrobe in a day, maybe even half a day, depending on what type of closet you have. But of course, this is an entirely personal choice because for most people, the wardrobe is what they see first, but it is not the one that bothers them the most. Drawers, by the way, are an accumulator of junk. Why? Because you can close them and the room is instantly clean, at least for the moment. Then keep working area by area, focusing your time on the areas where you spend the most time, and then working backwards from there. Some people like to sit at the kitchen table, others like to sit in the family room, still others like to be in their home office. Rank them based on what's most important to you. Finally, strive for one and done. By categorizing your clutter as keep, giveaway, throwaway, you've done the hard part of the job. Now, the only thing you need to do is execute on that plan. And it's easier to execute, by the way, because you can always change your mind. People generally don't, but you have that option. As a reminder, don't forget to click subscribe and turn on notifications. Finally, if you like this video, check out that video. It's one of my most popular. It's 6 big purchases retirees almost always regret. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.